Welcome back everybody to another video on the channel. In today's video we're going to be doing a Stage 4 Team Affinity Finest ranking. To be very clear, we're only doing these 99s in the Team Affinity that you are guaranteed by doing the Team Affinity, not any of the bonus Team Affinity, you know, Acuna, Cole, LeMay, or anybody else in that choice pack. We're only talking about those 30 cards that are a part of Team Affinity that you are guaranteed when you do a Team Affinity. Hopefully that makes sense. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but we're just going to get into number 30. Jacob Stallings is going to be number 30. Honestly, I probably could have put some players behind him, but this card is just not interesting at all. For every good thing he has a bad thing. The stats versus left are good, the stats versus right are bad. The fielding's good, but the speed is bad. I mean, really, no secondaries is also a huge knock on this card. There's just so many better catchers in this Finest promo alone. Honestly, I'd probably rather have Jason Kendall from Stage 3 of the Pirates than I would Jacob Stallings. Yeah, this card really isn't good. Also, there's very little name value with Jacob Stallings. Unlike some of these other guys that are bona fide stars, Jacob Stallings is just kind of a player on the worst team in the MLB. In at number 29, we got Mike Yastremski. Now, you might think this is a harsh rating for Yaz, and I totally understand that, but the biggest knack, 89 power versus righties. That's just not going to get it done, especially as a lefty. I really don't like that at all. You know, he does have 118 power versus left, 103 contact, and 116 contact versus right's also nice. But then you look, he doesn't have a good arm. He's a fine fielder, but doesn't have a good arm. And when you compare him to his tops now, they look very similar. And as a matter of fact, I would probably take his tops now just because of that power versus righties. Or at the very least, I would settle for his tops now, which is much cheaper on the market. And yeah, this card, I just don't really see why, because again, very similar to his tops now. And at number 28, representing the Houston Astros, we got Kyle Tucker. You know, Kyle Tucker, honestly, my biggest complaint with him is that, yeah, he's just really not it. I mean, there's nothing that he excels in. If you can see, he only has 2 stats over 100 in terms of hitting, 88 fielding, 89 reaction, 83 speed, super mediocre, and honestly nothing sticks out to me about that card. And at number 27 we got Miguel Rojas. You could make the argument this is the worst card in Finest, honestly. I mean, this card is really bad. 85 and 75 versus righties is never going to get it done. Arm strength and speed is low for a shortstop. That is a big pain in the ass because, again, I'm telling you, those are the 2 most important stats, right? You want an arm strength and you want speed, and Miguel Rojas has neither of those. Combine that with the fact that he can't hit right-handed pitching, which is the most common type of pitching you'll see. Honestly, this card just isn't it. In at number 26, you got David Fletcher. You may think this ranking is a little bit harsh, but I'm going to be completely honest. This card's not good. And the real problem is 65 power. 65 power is never going to get it done in this game. Maybe you can get away with it for Stage 1 of Team Affinity, but this is Stage 4. We're expecting 99 overalls. And then you include the fact he only has 60 speed at shortstop. Again, not a ton of range. And he's supposed to be kind of this contact fielder, and really neither of those archetypes play super well, all things considered, because he's kind of slow. And at number 25, again, you might think this ranking is a little harsh, but we got Shane Bieber. The biggest hole for Shane Bieber is his differentials. They're poor. He's very slow in terms of his repertoire, very slow. Only 94 on the fastball. That's really not going to get it done. And then you look at his cutter at 90, and then the rest of his off speed is 86 to 83 miles an hour. Shane Bieber's best pitch is his knuckle curve, and knuckle curves just don't play well in this game at all. So, also very similar to his Tops Now card. Like I said, I just don't see a ton of need for this card. It does have good pronines and stamina and good break, but I just really don't like this card. Like I said, this ranking may seem kind of low because he does have a cut fastball, he has a slider, he has a four-seam, he kind of has a few of the pitches that you'd really want, but I just don't like his archetype and his pitch mix. And at number 24, we got Yammer Candelario for the Detroit Tigers. To be completely honest, the only reason this card is on this list, or that is this high on this list, is because he's a switch hitter. Other than that, there's very little value in this card. He plays in the corner infield, which is a super contested position. You really want to have just sluggers there. I'd honestly rather platoon guys than have a switch hitter there. The stats versus righties are decent, stats versus lefties are good. And then you look at the fielding, only at 82, 53 speed. Just not a card that I think a lot of people are going to be using at this point in the year. You know, you drop him 3-4 months into the game cycle, I see him maybe being used a lot more. But right now, there's just so much good depth at first base. I mean, you look at Freddy Freeman, another first baseman. You can put guys like Romito and Perez at first. There's just not a ton of need for Candelario, and I wish they'd give this card to Miguel Cabrera, to be honest. He had a good year this year and kind of an iconic Tiger. And at number 23, from the D-backs, we've got Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen overall, definitely a good player, but the one hole, if you will, in Gallen's game is he doesn't have a slider, and that's huge. Slider is probably my second most thrown pitch besides four-seam fastball in this game, and he doesn't have one. He does have a cutter, he does have a sinker, and he does have a decent differential between those pitches, but he also doesn't throw that hard. That's a big problem. So no slider, doesn't throw hard, walks per 9 is extremely low. Now we got Lynn in at number 22, very similar to Gallen. The only thing is he throws a little bit more gas at 96 miles an hour for the four-seam, which is better than Gallen. His per 9s are a little bit lower, but again, I would honestly just prefer Lynn. I would much rather have velocity over control, which is what Gallen has. And yeah, this card is just basically a better version of Gallen. The differentials are a little bit worse, but again, I would honestly rather have velocity than differentials. Velocity is king in this game, and Gallen and Lynn are very good examples of that. And at number 21, we got Utility Man Lourdes Gurriel Jr. This card is going to play exactly like he will in real life. Great utility guy to have on your bench, just in case maybe you don't have that guy on the bench and can just kind of come in and pretty much play anywhere. Well, Gurriel is going to do that for you. He can play everywhere but center field, first base, and catcher. So that's a pretty good amount of positions he can play. The hitting stats are decent but not great. The fielding's decent but not great. I mean, yeah, this card's basically just a utility man. I mean, you can definitely start him if you want, but there's much better options, even later in this team Affinity. But again, that position depth, if you feel like he's a good bench slot for you, this card could be really good at that. In at number 20, we got Giovanni Gallegos from the St. Louis Cardinals. And you may think this is kind of low, but keep in mind, Gallegos really has only two different pitch speeds. His four-seam and his sinker, and then his slider and his changeup. So while he does have a pretty good pitch mix, the speed differentials on this pitches, you really only have to look for two different speeds. Also, the velo is pretty low for a reliever, 84, only going to touch 94 in his fastball. That's pretty low velocity. Not to mention, he just gets rocked for me. I mean, again, his stats are deceptive because, as I'll show you in these clips, he just always seems to get rocked for me. Just gets hit. I don't know what to say. I mean, look at this swing by Tatis. You get bailed out by Ronald Acuna a little bit here, kind of a lot actually. Bailed out by Ronald Acuna, but I just don't feel comfortable with this card. and that's why he's so low on this list. I should mention though, his per 9s are pretty good. So if you feel good with Gallegos, if you like his release, his pitch mix, I would definitely use him. Please don't be discouraged by me. At number 19, we got Xander Bogarts from the Boston Red Sox. Bogarts is a shortstop that really shouldn't be in the field, if we're being honest. The hitting stats are good, 92, 95, 125, 112. Those certainly do not disappoint, but then 74 fielding, 75 reaction with 68 speed. This card is not going to be able to play shortstop at all for you. You're going to have to stick him at second or third. His arm isn't too good, so I wouldn't put him at third, but you can definitely get away with this guy at second base. Overall, a decent card, definitely a good hitter. I just want to use him in the field. In at number 18, we got pinch hitting specialist Nelson Cruz. I mean, you kind of know what's up with the Nelson Cruz card at this point in Diamond Dynasty. You know what Nelson Cruz can do, and he can smack baseballs. 125, 118 power with 125 contact and 92 against righties. So the contact versus righties is a little low. And then as you can see, 67 fielding, 32 speed with 65 reaction. That is absolutely terrible. So you can run the risk of starting him and putting him in the outfield, but he's kind of a pure bat. You can see a clip here of me destroying a baseball with Nelson Cruz. And yeah, this card is just going to hit. That's all he's really going to do. And at number 17, we got a little bit more of a balanced pick, Kyle Lewis from the Seattle Mariners. He's got 108 and 104 respectively against righties, 87 and 122 power against lefties, which is huge. He's also got a diamond shield in center field. 90 fielding is nice to see with 69 speed. The big problem, like I said, that's kind of slow in the outfield. Also, I would rather have that power against righties, obviously, because you face righties more often. I still have yet to play a game with this card, but if you like his player of the month, it's just going to be an upgraded version, really. And at number 16, we got Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson is basically a worse version of another shortstop that I'm going to mention here later in this list, but let's look at Tim Anderson here. Maxed out stats versus lefties, but only 79 power. That's just not going to get it done. This guy's basically a platoon option. With J-Ram, with Mondesi, you know, J-Ram and Mondesi are going to field better than him, or similar to him. Only 84 speed, just not a great card. And at number 15, we got Nick Anderson. Again, this could be a low ranking. I know he does have maxed out per 9s, which is legit. 98 velo, 99 break. I know this card has a potential to be nasty. I just really don't like his release. It's one of those releases that if you can get it down, this card could be deadly because he's got a really difficult release for the hitter to pick up as well. But I just struggle to locate. I mean, I almost never have problem with pure analog in terms of hitting my spots, and I just couldn't with this card. Sinker, four-seam, curve, slider, really good pitch mix as well. Here's a couple clips of him. Again, not a bad pitcher. Definitely struck some guys out, but I just did not like my experience. Again, though, probably top 10 if you can nail his release. This card is going to be dirty if you can manage to get his release down. In at number 14, this kind of hurts here. MV free, Freddy Freeman in at number 14. Man, the SDS did this card so dirty. The problems with this card are his stats versus lefties. They're abysmal. They're not good. 86-81 is not good at this point in the year. His stats versus righties are really good. His fielding's good, but he plays first base, a position that you really don't need fielding at. I mean, I don't know. This card just, it's fine. The problem is he's going to play almost identical to a guy like Jim Thome, and Jim Thome's probably going to be cheaper than him. There's just so many pure slugging first basemen, and it looks like you're going to have to platoon him as well, which is just annoying. It kind of did probably the NL MVP dirty. Of course, you never know, but I would assume he's going to be the NL MVP. and he got done absolutely dirty. And at number 13, we got Liam Hendricks from the A's. Liam Hendricks, the only reason he's this low, he just doesn't have anything interesting, right? I mean, 4-seam slider, curve, 2-seam changeup, nothing special. He does, however, have maxed out hits and Ks per 9, super high walks per 9, and then you take into account that his 4-seam's 4 miles per hour faster than his 2-seam. This card could be really good, but he just doesn't have a knockout pitch. You know, a sinker, a cutter. I mean, another reliever on this list is a screwball, so really just nothing special from Liam Hendricks. But again, I think you can still have success with this card, but it's kind of a predictable pitch mix. In at number 12, we got DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu, his one problem is that 78 power versus lefties. Other than that, I think the card's pretty good, right? Maxed out contact, you can't get any better than that. 108 power versus righties, that's good. His fielding at 86 is serviceable at second base, and his arm is really not going to allow him to play short, or third, realistically, even though that is technically an option. 43 speed is also going to hinder him from short, but you pretty much have to play him at second, which in and of itself doesn't have a ton of depth. So I could definitely see the argument for playing LeMahieu. Again, though, 78 power versus lefties, you're probably going to have to find a platoon for him, which is not ideal. And again, with maxed out contact, it just kind of depends on what you're looking for in a second baseman. In at number 11, we're going to be talking about Trevor Story. This is who I was comparing to Tim Anderson, and you can see this card's just better in my opinion. He's got 123 contact, 120 power, 97 versus righties, 81 power, and then he's got diamond shield with 95 arm, 91 reaction, 85 speed, so he's a better fielder than Tim Anderson. He's just as good against lefties, better against righties in my opinion because he hits that 81 threshold. Not to mention that Trevor Story's swing is an absolute glitch. I use this guy's headliner card. He absolutely raked for me, and I don't think this card is going to be any different. I mean, I might even start this guy on my lineup for fun because he just hits so well for me. I got some clips here. Not to mention 99 stealing. You can get kind of cheeky on the base paths with 99 stealing. These are just a few balls that I hit with him, and then look at the fielding right there, going in, making the play. That's a play that Tim Anderson probably wouldn't have made, and Trevor Story made it look easy. Now, that's a deep ball. Unfortunately, it was caught. I am playing in one of the deeper ballparks in the game, but Trevor Story mashes. That's the point. And at number 10, we got Anthony Santander. A really good card here. First off, he's a switch hitter. I'm sure you know the value of switch hitters. They're incredibly valuable in this game. Not to mention, he's got 115 and 110 power, which is better power than I believe Chipper Jones in this game, which is ridiculous. Then you look at his contact versus lefties, 69. That's kind of low, but that's really the only hole in this guy's game. You can see he got lower power than Chipper, but he's also got a diamond shield along with 91 reaction. Even though he's only got 56 speed, he's probably going to play right field pretty well. Again, 69 contact versus left is bad, but here's a few clips of me hitting the ball up the middle. That's pretty much all I did in this game with Anthony Santander. Put a couple up the middle, but they certainly weren't weak contact, so I think I'm going to like this card in the future. It might be a sleeper in this set. In at number 9, we got JT Romito from the Phillies. I think this is a card a lot of people are going to sleep on. Obviously, 85 contact versus right's the one hole, but I mean, 112 power versus righties. That will be on display in just a short few seconds. I have some clips. He's also got 85 fielding along with 91 arm, 75 speed as well, so this card's just great. There's that no doubt shot from Romito. That thing was crushed. 112 power definitely showing. Keep in mind this is on a lower difficulty where contact matters a little bit less, but still Real Muto whacking baseballs. Just insanely good card, insanely slept on card, and the fact that he's not even the best catcher in this finest drop really tells you something. And at number 8, we got Jacob Degrom from the New York Mets. Degrom got a four-seam at 99 miles an hour. So, along with outliers, that's going to get up to 102. But again, the same type of problem with Liam Hendricks. Slider, changeup, curveball, two-seam. Not a ton of interesting stuff there. His two-seam is not very dynamic at all. Very little break, very little control. So that's not good. And then you look at his slider at 92 miles an hour. It's going to be very eerily similar to his teammate Noah Syndergaard's slider. It's just going to be pretty hard-breaking slider. Not really what you want. You would prefer more of a loopy slider like Orel Hershiser's. So that's kind of the criticism I actually have of Jacob Degrom. He could be very easy to hit, very similar to Nate Pearson. If you can catch up to the gas, I think you can probably hit this card. In at number 7, we got Salvador Perez from the Royals. This card is just good. This card is straight up good, man. First off, 112, 125 power respectively. Good lord. And then you combine that with maxed out contact versus righties. It does only have 88 contact versus lefties, but this card's going to be amazing. I mean, just look at some clips here of me playing. Keep in mind, this was only one game. That was all the damage Salvador Perez was able to do. This card's going to be amazing. I loved his 94, and this card's even better than that. The fielding is not great, but it's going to be serviceable at catcher. 32 speed, again, serviceable at catcher. I think what he lacks in fielding and speed, he really makes up for it in his hitting. Now, in at number 6, we got Yu Darvish from the Cubs. I really like this card. Let's just start off with that. He's got cutter, he's got sinker, he's got four seams. Those are three super important pitches that when you tunnel all three of them, they're going to be almost impossible to read. And then you take a look at the slider, which is nice. And then he's got a 12-6 curve, which honestly I think I might rather have a changeup. But again, 12-6, still a really difficult pitch to plan for. The per 9s are kind of low, and that's why he's low on this list, really. The per 9s are a tad bit low. I would prefer if they were a little bit higher. His differential also isn't super great on his four seam and his cutter and his sinker and his cutter. So he could have a little bit of trouble with that. And then again, you consider the lower per 9s and some of these other finest pitchers. But, you know, the walks per 9 at 99 does kind of make up for it. In at number 5, we got Manny Machado from the Padres. Let's just get the elephant out of the room here. His hitting stats are unreal. 109, 111, 116, 120 respectively. That's crazy. And then you factor in the fact that he has 96 fielding with 99 arm and a 97 reaction at third base. If you really believe that fielding matters at third base and you've been looking for an all-around third baseman, this guy is it. He can also play shortstop. I'd be a little wary, again, with 46 speed, rather. I would be a little bit wary, but he does still have 97 reactions, so he's probably going to play pretty well there anyway. You could play this guy at short. You could play him at third. You could probably even play him at first if you wanted to. Just pretty much an all-around card. Great hitting, great fielder. Yeah, I would not complain about this card at all. Here's a clip of me ripping a double the other way with Manny Machado. Also has a pretty decent swing. I don't know that it's amazing, not nearly on the level of Salvador Perez, at least for me, but definitely not a bad swing. In at number 4, we got Mookie Bets from the LA Dodgers. We've been waiting all year for a Mookie Bets card, at least a lot of people have, and I'm excited that we finally got one. Again, stats versus righties, as we've seen this year a lot, you know, amazing. 121, 125. He actually got kind of nice with his stats versus lefties. 81 power, and he really didn't do anything against lefties this year, so his stats are really nice in that sense. And then you look at the fielding, 99 fielding, 99 reaction, so he's going to keep his fielding if you do decide to play him at his secondary, which is second base. He's also got 72 speed, so he'll play the outfield really well, especially right field. He'll play it extremely well, but again, he's going to keep it in center. He's going to keep his diamond in center, left, and second base. You can see right here, I just launched a nuke with Mookie Betts. That was hit really hard. and you're going to get a ton of good exit velos, especially against righties with this card. That one was hit incredibly well, just happened to be to the fielder. Now, you can see, I put him in at shortstop, and he still has 74 fielding, so this card's going to be pretty good. I mean, all things considered, he's going to hold on to 74 fielding with the arm. It's not out of the question. I wouldn't play him at shortstop, though. And at number 3, we got Trevor Bauer from the Reds. Trevor Bauer, one of my favorite players in real life, one of my favorite players in this game. Let's start. Four-seam sinker cutter, huge. You include the slider and the knuckle curve. Again, maybe you want to change up there, but in general, Trevor Bauer is going to be great for you. The differential is huge on the sinker and the cutter. You're going to see, I believe, an 8-mile-per-hour difference between the four-seam and the cutter. That's borderline elite. I mean, that's really good. And then you consider that, I think it actually might be a 9-mile-per-hour difference. You consider that with the fact that he has a slider. I mean, this card's going to be really good. You can just see me racking up the Ks with this guy. And like I said, the knuckle curve could be an interesting substitute for the changeup. I would still prefer the changeup, but knuckle curve is going to suffice. Then you consider the fact that his per 9s are 124, 117. He's got 115 stamina. Control's a little low. The walks per 9's a little low, but I'm going to get over it because this Trevor Bauer card is just going to be a ton of fun. Shout out to Trevor Bauer vlogging for the YouTube. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'm just K'ing guys with Trevor Bauer. And at number 2, we have debatably the best reliever in the game. You could definitely make an argument for that. We got Devin Williams. He's got a changeup, which is his primary. Then he's got a four-seam fastball at 97, cutter at 87, sinker at 95, along with a screwball. So this card is going to be incredibly difficult to hit, especially when you consider the differentials between the cutter, the fastball, cutter, and the sinker. It's going to be incredibly hard to hit this card. Then you look at that screwball. That can give you all sorts of problems if you combine that with the changeup. Plus, he's got the most stamina out of any finest reliever, along with 125 hits and 125 Ks per 9. Again, walks per 9's a little low, control's a little low, but this card's stuff is just going to be so nasty. He's straight up maybe the best reliever in the game, definitely in consideration for it, and should definitely be in your bullpen. I really like that SDS made a card that's very reminiscent of how dominant of a season Devin Williams actually had in real life, because this card's going to be borderline unhittable in Hall of Fame and good difficulties. In at number 1, unsurprisingly, we have Juan Soto. Again, pure hitter, but the best pure hitter in the game if you ask me. 125, 125, and then 119, which is somehow his worst hitting stat, is 119, along with 125 power versus left. I mean, this card's ridiculous, right? I'm hitting 800 with him. Again, the fielding is a little bit low, but I'm willing to get over it personally. I think if you're going to have a guy like him in the lineup, you don't really care about hitting. I mean, you're just there to hit bombs. And Juan Soto certainly does that. Here's the other thing, though. 80 reaction, that's going to play pretty well. It's actually 83, but the threshold's 80. That reaction is going to play decently well in the outfield. Like I said, though, you're probably going to want to stick him in right. I would not want to play that card in left field. But probably the best pure hitter in the game. Like I said, maybe you prefer Mantle just because of the switch hitting ability, but it's really damn close. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm going to go ahead and leave you with some Juan Soto bombs at the end of this. But for now, let's go ahead and like the video, subscribe if you're here this long. I would really appreciate it. I'm going to try to record another video that hopefully I'll get out by the end of this weekend. We'll see. I don't know. I've had some troubles with this one rendering, so hopefully it works this time. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. There's also some cards I haven't tried out yet, so like I said, there is a few cards that I haven't tried, and I made that clear. I haven't tried some of these cards yet, but I don't think they're going to play very well. I'm not very interested. And yeah, I'll leave you with Soto hitting some tanks.